Moshe is called Adas B'nai Yisrael. Moshe gathered all the Jewish people. So, the Meforshim all emphasize that Vayakel means Hakel. Everybody comes together. Men, women, children, everybody. And the reason is because the whole purpose of the Mishkan was to forgive the Chet HaEgel, the sin of the golden calf. The sin of the golden calf was done together. It was done as a whole group. They were all at Har Sinai. And the purpose of the Mishkan was for them to get back to the same level they were at before. Ki ish echad b'lev echad. One man, one soul, one heart, unity. So therefore, Vayakel, Hashem said to Moshe, gather all the Jewish people together, and we're going to build the Beis HaMikdash, the Mishkan, with the same unity that you accepted the Torah. And that continuity will be a kapora for the Chet HaEgel. What's interesting is that in each parsha, Truma, Tetzaveh to some degree, Kisisa, Vayakel, Pekudei, it repeats over and over again a small introduction about how to keep Shabbat. And the Gemara learns out from here a very interesting halacha, that as important as the Beis HaMikdash is, the Beis HaMikdash does not doche Shabbat, meaning you cannot build a Beit HaMikdash on Shabbat. That means the Beit HaMikdash was to bring about forgiveness for the Chet HaEgel. The Jews might think, so important, we got to build it 7 days a week, every single day. So therefore the Torah repeats over and over again, Sheishis Yamin Teos HaMalacha Ubayom Hashvi Yilem Chodesh Shabbos Shabbaton. You can't work on Shabbos, you can't build on Shabbos. Okay. Listen to the question that Al-Shich HaKodesh asks. The Al-Shich HaKodesh says, if building the Mishkan was not more important than Shabbat was more important, then once the Mishkan was built, how could they do work in the Mishkan on Shabbat? They brought korbanot, they slaughtered, they killed, they sprinkled blood, they sifted, they baked, they sprinkled blood, they put korbanot, they put food on fire. That means in the Beit HaMikdash, the Kohanim's avodah involved Chilul Shabbat. If we're learning week after week after week, keep Shabbos, build your Beit HaMikdash, one does not supersede the other. So the Al-Shich HaKodesh says, how could they work and do avodah on Shabbat? That's his question. It's an interesting question. The Chavos Das, which is one of the Meforshei of Shulchan Aruch, the Chavos Das, he brings down an answer. Very interesting answer. He says as follows. He says, building the Beit HaMikdash, we think Betzalel did it, the people did it. Reality is, Hashem built the Beit HaMikdash, the Mishkan. Betzalel was 13 years old. How did he know how to build the Mishkan? Hashem gave him the smarts. The people were slaves in Egypt. How did they get the skills to build what they had to build? Hashem gave them the skills. The menorah, Moshe didn't know how to build the menorah. How did he build the menorah? He threw the gold into the fire, the menorah came out. The Chavos Das says that when it came to building the Mishkan, Hashem says, you guys are just my servants, my messengers. I'm going to really do the building. And I don't build on Shabbat. Shabbat is my day of rest. So when it came to building, they couldn't build. Hashem wouldn't let because Hashem wasn't going to help them. The avodah is what people do for Hashem. That you're allowed to do on Shabbos. In the Beit HaMikdash, the avodah of people could do it. I saw some of them before she bring down, we'll talk about it a little bit more next year, that part of the purpose of bringing korbanot is to get kapara. That means the korbanot created peace between Hashem and Bnei Yisrael. And to create that peace, you're allowed to do on Shabbat. They bring down, Lo savarim eish b'chol moshvosechem b'yom HaShabbat. Don't kindle fire. What does that mean? Fire generally means machloket. Don't have a machloket on Shabbos. Why should you have fights on Shabbos more than during the week? Because on Shabbos, people are home. And when they spend a lot of time home, that's a problem. When a man loses his job, one of the first things that happens is he has sholom bayis problems. Why do you think that is? Because he's home more often. That means that we who deal with Shalom Bayis issues generally like it when the man is working or the wife is working, because when they're a little bit out of the house, it makes things a little bit better. When people retire and they're on top of each other all the time, they're around each other all the time, there's a certain Shalom Bayis takes a hit. So Lo Savar Eish B'chol Moshosecha B'Yom HaShabbat, Shabbos is really a difficult time. What makes it so difficult is that everybody's home the whole time. That's why it's good when people go to shul and they have shiurim and they spend time. Makes things a little bit easier. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda HaChosid. Do you know who Rabbi Yehuda HaChosid is? There are certain gezerot, hanhogot, customs. Rabbi Yehuda HaChosid put together a list of a whole bunch of different things that he instructed his family to follow. I say that to you because I'm going through, I told you the Yabiya Omer's, Rabbi Vadri Yosef. And Rabbi Vadri Yosef was asked a question. Can a man marry his wife's sister after his wife passes away?
Yes.
You say yes. Why did Rabbi Vadri Yosef address this question? Because Rabbi Yehuda HaChosid says you should not marry your wife's sister.
Not good, eh?
Not a good thing. Rabbi Yehuda HaChosid.
Why?
Not sure why he said it. He left certain instructions. There's a whole bunch of instructions that he left. So Rabbi Vadri Yosef says that there are many people in the Gemara. The Gemara talks about where after the wife died, and when they bury the wife, the man will go over to the sister and say, in 30 days after the Avelut is over, please come and take care of your nieces and nephews. Which means that was a proposal for marriage.
She's not married.
Because she's not married, so it's a proposal for marriage. So Rabbi Vadri Yosef says that Rabbi Yehuda HaChosid, his instructions were really for his family. They weren't for the Bnei Yisrael. Rabbeinu Gershom made gezerot for all the Jewish people. But Rabbi Yehuda HaChosid left instructions for his family. These are my instructions. So he says most of us are not related to Rabbi Yehuda HaChosid. We're not his family. So therefore Rabbi Vadri Yosef allowed this man to marry his wife's sister. That was the question. But there are many things. Rabbi Yehuda HaChosid said it's not a good idea for two brothers to live in the same house.
Why?
Because there's a pasuk in the Torah, Ki yeshu achim yachdo, when two brothers live together, umeis echad mehem, when one of them dies, the whole mitzvah of yibum, marrying the wife of your brother. So Rabbi Yehuda HaChosid says from there that if you have a two-family house, and one brother lives in this house, and one brother lives in that house, it's a bad idea. It's a bad omen. It's a siman ra. The story goes that there were two brothers who bought a two-family house, and they were living. They were both very successful brothers, and once they moved in next to each other, things started to get bad. Lost his job, lost his business. This got sick, that got sick, and everybody kept saying, you know why this is happening? Because you violated the instructions of Rabbi Yehuda HaChosid. So they went to a big Hasidic rabbi who was a Kabbalist. And he wrote something on a piece of cloth, a piece of paper, and he rolled it in, and he put it in a jar. And he told him to hang this jar between the two doors. And the minute they hung it there, this brother got wild, that brother got wild, his business came back, and they became successful again. And they lived for many, many years. Both brothers died. Eventually, the children, the grandchildren, wanted to know what was written in that jar. So they finally, when they sold the property, they took the jar down and they opened it and they pulled out the piece of paper. On the piece of paper it says, a pasuk in Tehillim, Hinei ma tov u'ma noim, how beautiful and nice it is, Yeshu achim gam yachtov, when two brothers can live together. So he wrote a pasuk from Tehillim that talks about how good it is for two brothers to live together. And when he put that up there, the mazel became from bad to good. So Rabbi Yehuda HaChosid had instructions. So what did Rabbi Yehuda HaChosid write? Listen to what he said. It's a fascinating thing. He wrote, Ein odom rishoi lihitnadei below rishus ishto. A man cannot make a large donation without his wife's permission. The shul is having a campaign. We're building a new building. A man says, I donate $250,000 for the Aron Kodesh. Very generous. the first question you ask the man is, did you ask your wife? If the man says, well, my wife, it's my money. I can do with it what I want. The truth is, it's not your money. It might be your money, but you have a family, you have responsibilities. But who says I have to ask my wife? Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid. It's a very fascinating thing. We know that the halacha says when a person's collecting money, you can't go to the wife and get a large donation without her asking permission from her husband. That's brought down in halacha. But the reverse is not. Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid said yes. Then he brings down a Baal HaTurim. The Baal HaTurim says that a man cannot take his wife's jewelry and sell it and donate the money without her permission. Now, you say to yourself, what's going on over here? The man says, I bought her the bracelet, I bought her the necklace, I bought her the earrings, so I'm allowed to take it back. The halacha says, no way. It's a gift. Now, in secular court, a gift is a gift. You know, we're not Indian givers. We don't give one day and take back. In halacha, it's a little bit more complicated. Because when I deal with divorce cases, usually the man says, I want the ring back. Because the ring costs $10,000 or $15,000. I want the ring back. You know, you can keep the rest of the stuff. I want the ring back. In the other case, the guy wanted his Rolex back. What did the father say? The father gave him the Rolex. The girl gave him the Rolex. He says, you tried to kill my daughter, I should give you a watch? To see how fast she dies? I'm not giving you your watch back. He took the watch back and he didn't give it back. So they had a big machlokas over a watch. From a halacha point of view, the rule applies also. A gift is a gift. What we have a custom is that if two people get married and they get divorced in the first year, then we usually give the gifts back. You know.
5 years at least.
Not 5 years. The first year, 12
They
months.
live 5 years, they already law you can.
It's too long.
Too long.
If you're married 5 years, you can keep your ring and you can keep your watch and you can keep your shas that she bought for you, and she gets to keep her earrings. And most of the time, men take their wife's jewelry right away. When they get shalom bias problems, one of the first thing the guy does is he empties the jewelry box. Half the time that people come to me, the wife is screaming, he took all my jewelry. And he sells it to pay for the lawyer. This way he feels that she's paying for his lawyer. The Baal HaTurim says, Shelo yovo mishel tachshite ishto el mirtzono. You cannot, without her permission, take her jewelry. If you buy your wife jewelry, it's hers. More to come. Okay, next. The Chidah. Fascinating stuff from the Chidah. Who wrote Tfilah Shacharit? Avraham. Okay, the Anshe Knesset Agdol put it in the Siddur. I got you. Avraham was Mesakin Shacharit. Who wrote Mincha? Yitzchak. Who wrote Mariv? Yaakov. Who wrote Tfilat Musaf? Chachamim. The Chidah says, Kosav HaChidah. Devarim niflaim, unbelievable things. Musaf, specifically it says Shel Rosh Chodesh, but Musaf, Rachel Imenu wrote it. Because she had a child she called Yosef. And Yosef is Musaf, is the concept. When she had Yosef, the child Yosef, she was so happy, she did Tfilat Musaf, and she called him Yosef. That's what the Chidah writes. She prayed Musaf, and she called the baby Yosef, and she called Musaf. Why for Rosh Chodesh? Because she saw Baruch HaKodesh, and Rosh Chodesh would be something for the women. Now he says something fascinating. The Chidah writes that in the beginning of the Musaf on Rosh Chodesh it says Roshei Chadoshim La'amocha. The first letters of Roshei is Reish, Chadoshim is Chet, La'amocha Lamed is Rachel. Is her initials. Many people who wrote tefillot used to write their initials in the beginning. So he says that the beginning of Tfilat Musaf is Roshei Chadashim La'amocha, spells Rachel. And the Chidah writes, therefore it's his belief that if women daven one tefillah on Shabbat, guess which one it should be? Musaf. You know, we try women to daven at least one tefillah, shacharit, you know, because it has Shema, Shmon Esrei, or some women who are busy because they're raising their children, daven mincha because it's shorter. But he says something fascinating. he says that maybe the tefillah they should daven is Musaf. Because who wrote Musaf? Rachel Imenu. It's a fascinating yichidah, fascinating. Next, very interesting. When it came time to construct the Mishkan, there was a debate between Moshe and Betzalel. Moshe at the beginning says, let's first build the Aron, the Shulchan, the Menorah. Why? Because that's exciting stuff. To build the Aron, people were excited. The Menorah, that's exciting. Afterwards, we'll build the curtains and the beams and the foundation. Betzalel said to Moshe, it doesn't make sense. You don't first buy the furniture and then buy the house, right? You buy a living room set, where are you going to put it? First you get the house, then you buy the furniture. So, in truth, Betzalel was right. Common sense. So Vayakel goes through the construction of the Mishkan first. So Truma Tetzaveh was Moshe's theory, got the excitement going, the adrenaline going. But in the end, Betzalel was right. What the Das Akanim in Bali Atosva says is something unusual. He says the first thing they built were the curtains for the roof. The hides, the curtains for the roof. Then it says they built the beams and the bases and everything else. So again, it doesn't work. Who builds the roof before you build the walls? So the Sipurno gives a fascinating answer. He says, sometimes you need a goal. You build the roof because that's the goal. If I know what's above me, I can then build the sides to fix the roof. And he says Hashem created a miracle where the roof just stood there. And they slowly built everything underneath. He says sometimes people need to look up and see the finished product, know that's my goal, and then accomplish the goal. That means a person has to have a goal in life. A person has to have a purpose. Rabbi Victor Miller said something interesting. Rabbi Victor Miller asked, why did Hashem create the solar system where now with a telescope we can see other planets billions of miles away? He says, except for science fiction, there's no way we're ever going to make it there. The whole world was created for Bnei Yisrael. Why do I, a Jew, need to know that billions of miles away there's another solar system? How does that make me a better Jew? He says, because it makes you more impressed with Hashem. Su'u einechem la'morom, he says, look up to the heavens, uru'u mi bora ela. By looking and seeing that there are universes and there are solar systems well beyond our reach, makes us feel that much more important and that much more special, knowing the majesty and power of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Then he says, then I saw something very interesting. Everything that's mentioned in the Torah and everything that happens and every name in Hebrew has meanings. We talk about this all the time. The name Hashem is Midat Harachamim. The name Elokim is what Midah? Midat Hadin. We spoke about this a few weeks ago. Where was the first time the Jewish people saw Hashem's Midat Hadin, where they were able to point and say, I remember that guy, he was miserable and he was suffering. This guy was a nice guy, he died quickly. Where was that happen? By the Yam Suf. You know what the word Elokim spells? El Hayam. If you spell it Elokim, Aleph Lamed, Hey Yud Mem, El Hayam. Look to the Yam Suf. You'll see Midat Hadin. The name Elokim tells you the first time. Why do I say that? Because I told you a few weeks ago that in Hebrew, the word God, G-O-D, is the Gematria 26. So I had a guy, when I said this to in Shul, and he said to me, you know, Rabbi, he says, if you spell God backwards, it spells dog. So dog also equals 26. So I said, you know what, in English, you have a problem. That's right. But not in Hebrew. He said, what do you mean? I said, what's the Hebrew word for dog? Kelev. Okay? I said, do you know anybody who would call their kid Kelev? No. I do. Kalev ben Yefuna. Kalev ben Yefuna, who was Miriam's husband, was called Kalev, dog. Now, did his mother not like him? Did his father not like him? You know? Rabbi Akiva's father-in-law, what was his name? Kalbo Savua. Kalbo means dog. His mother didn't like him.
Hungry dog.
You know, hungry dog, a satisfied dog. So the Medrash says, what does the word kalev mean? It comes from the word kalev, a good heart. Because a dog is loyal.
Yeah, he's nice.
He's nice, he's loyal to his master. Kalev was loyal to Hashem. He listened to Hashem and not the Meraglim. He says in Hebrew, the word kalev has a different meaning than English. It's not a bad word, it's a good word. It has a meaning, a significance. Hebrew is very different. The word mayim, you can spell it frontwards and backwards because that's how rain works. It rains, there's water. It gets hot, it goes back up. It's a cycle. Someone said to me, mayim is two mems and a yud because water is H2O. Like, you know, it's symbolism. You don't have that in English. English, the word water is water. It doesn't help that. But in Hebrew, mayim is something very, very interesting. I'm going to go into something else, but listen to this. Listen to this story. I'm going to tell you two stories, very interesting stories. How are we doing? Oh, good. There's a Gemara that says you should be min ha-ne'elovim ve'ein meshivim. What that means in English is if someone embarrasses you and you really want to give it to this guy, you really want to answer him back, what should you do? Say nothing. That means the Gemara seems to imply that if you are from the Ne'elovim, someone, hi, good evening. You came perfect for a story. Ha-Ne'elovim, the Gemara says you should be someone who if they embarrass you, you don't answer back. And if you can do that, your reward is fantastic, it's great. Okay. So there's an example. There's two guys. Let's call them Moshe and Shlomo. Two guys. They're both very poor. They have no money. What do they do for a living? They collect money. They go around collecting money. As fate would have it, Moshe met a guy that gave him $10,000. When Shlomo came to the same guy and said, do you have any money for me? The guy says, no, I gave away all my money to Moshe. I have no money. Well, Shlomo was very jealous. So the next day in shul, someone comes over to Moshe and says, Moshe, I understand you're collecting money. Would you like, I want to give you some money. Shlomo comes running in, don't give him any money. He doesn't need any money. He's a rich man. He's a successful rich man. He doesn't need any money at all. Now, you know, money can only go so far. And everywhere Moshe went, Shlomo was right there telling people, don't, he's a thief, he's a ganav, he's a rich man, he's a faker, he doesn't need it. So Moshe goes to his Rebbe, he says, Rebbe, this guy's killing me. You know, if this keeps up, I'll be broke in a month. I'm going to put this guy in his place. And his Rebbe says, no. The Gemara says, you should be hane'elovim ve'im meshivim. When someone embarrasses you, take it, walk away, don't answer back. And Hashem will protect you. Okay? His Rebbe said. This guy Moshe's child gets sick. He has to take him to Vienna to a special doctor, a specialist. I can't begin to tell you. His $10,000 is gone between the airfare, the kid's in the hospital, he has to pay the hospital bills, the doctor bills. He needs a place to stay. He has no place to stay. So he goes around trying to collect money. Well, the people in Vienna say, before we give you any money, we need to check you out. If you're legitimate, you know. Is there a number we can call in New York? He says, yeah, there was a wealthy guy in New York who gave me money once. Call this guy. So they call this wealthy guy. Who happens to be at the house of this wealthy guy when the phone call comes in? Shlomo. Shlomo picks up the phone. He says, well, this is from Vienna. The Jewish community is calling. We have a man here, Moshe, who says he needs financial help. Is he legitimate? And Shlomo says, that guy, he's rich. He doesn't need money. He has more than enough money. He's a faker. He's a phony. This guy he's furious. He calls up his Rebbe and he says, Rebbe, I'm in Vienna. I have to pay bills. I don't have a dime. I'm sleeping next to a dumpster in the alley. And the Rebbe says, no. Gemara says, Ne'elovim ve'meshivim. He goes to sleep. The next morning he wakes up, there's a suitcase by his feet. He opens up the suitcase, there's $500,000. Moshe's the happiest guy in the world. He pays off the hospital, pays off the doctor. He gets to sleep a few days in a beautiful hotel. Now he comes back to America. And he has to go through passport control, customs. Customs say to him, do you have anything to declare? He says, no. Do you have any money? If you have more than $10,000 cash, you got to claim it. IRS. So he says, well, I have about $460,000. He says, $460,000? You know, there's an international thief. Are you that international thief that Interpol is looking for? He says, no. So how come you have so much money? He didn't know what the answer. He says, well, I'm a businessman. And I travel over the world and I buy things, cash. So I need to travel with money. I always carry money. He says, no. We deal with a lot of businessmen. Only the richest businessmen carry a lot of cash with them. You know, we got to check out your story. He says, you got to check out my story? I'll give you a phone number. Gives him a phone number. Guess who he calls? Shlomo! This is Customs calling Shlomo. We have this guy, Moshe. Moshe! The guy's a millionaire. He has plenty of money. Don't give him any money. He doesn't need any money. So the guy comes back from customs and says, wow, you are a very rich man. Good looking. Let's go. The next day he comes to Shul and Shlomo's there. He says, I fixed you well. He says, fix me well. I owe you such a thank you. You don't know how good you were for me. He says, people embarrass you all the time. And you're so tempted to rip a side off of them. But the Gemara says, don't do it. Because Hashem will come and protect you. And Hashem will give you everything you want and then some. Okay. There's a story. Listen to this story. Another story I'll share with you. There was a little girl. This is a sample. There's a little girl, 5, 6 years old. Her mother's expecting a baby. So the rabbi says to the little girl, what kind of a baby would you like your mother to have, a boy or a girl? So the girl says, it depends. If the baby's born in the wintertime, I want it to be a boy. If it's born in the summertime, I want it to be a girl. The rabbi says, I don't get it. The wintertime a boy, summertime a girl, why? She says it's very simple. In the wintertime, if it's a boy, there'll be a bris. I get to miss school. In the summertime, if there's a bris, I miss camp. I like camp. I don't want to miss camp. So therefore, if it's in the wintertime, I want it to be a boy. But if it's in the summertime, I want it to be a girl. Yeah. That's what she said. It's like last year, Purim, it was snowing. You ask the parents, oh, what an inconvenience, snowing, going around in the Shlach Monas is so hard. You ask the kids, oh, it's horrible. What's so horrible? Because there was no school anyway. I'd rather it snowed on a school day. Then I could have had a day off from school. That means when it snows on a Shabbos, the kids aren't happy. They'd rather it snowed on a Monday or on a Tuesday so they could stay home, right? It all depends who you ask. So listen to this story. It's a fascinating story. There was a rabbi in Yerushalayim who was like the chief rabbi. He was the founder of the Bedatz, Rabbi Yosef Chaim Zonenfeld. The tzaddik of Yerushalayim. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. If not, there's books written about him. You know, a very saintly, a very, very great man. He was walking one day, you know, I guess from shul back to his home, and there was a little girl on her front porch crying. And Rabbi Zonenfeld went over to the little girl and says, why are you crying? And the girl says, my mother is sick, and I really want my mother to get better and take me to school. Now, it happens the mother was deathly ill. The mother was quite critical. And Rabbi Zonenfeld knew this because, you know, they were davening for this mother. And this little girl, you know, he looked at this little girl and he said, you know, her vision was very limited. So he said, you know, well, how can I help you? So she says, you're a great rabbi. And if you give a bracha, that bracha will work. Please give my mother a bracha that she should get better so she can take me to school tomorrow. So Rabbi Yosef Chaim Zonenfeld said to this girl a fascinating thing. He said to her, you know what? I'll give you a bracha, but my bracha is going to be different. I give you a bracha that your mother should walk you down to the chuppah. That was the bracha. That your mother should walk you down when you get married. When this girl turned 19, 20, and they started, she was the oldest of 9 children, they started to suggest shidduchim for her. Every shidduch, she said, was no good. The guy's too tall, he's too short, he's too fat, he's too thin, he has too long of a nose, too short of a nose, big ears, little ears, nothing, every shidduch, no, 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 no. She turned 21, 22, 23. Well, her other children, her other brothers and sisters were also getting to the age. And they asked her permission, could they go out? And she said, sure. And one by one, all her brothers and sisters got married. When she was in her 30s, they suggested a shidduch to her. And of course, when you're in your 30s, your pickings are less than when you're in 20. And she agreed to accept it, and she got married. And her mother walked her down to the chuppah. A week later, her mother died. At the funeral, she went to the coffin of her mother, and she said to her mother, Ima, I ask you forgiveness. I know when I didn't get married at 20, you were so hurt, and you were so worried about me. But Rabbi Zonenfeld gave me a bracha, you would walk me down to the chuppah. I wanted all my brothers and sisters to have the same schut, the same bracha. So I waited until they were all married before I got married. Because she was afraid that if I got married first, you would die right away. That's the power, she says, of a bracha of a tzaddik. And therefore she gave up her right to get married for all those years, just so that her brothers and sisters should be able to be married first. It's an amazing story from many levels. First of all, it's an amazing story about her Mesiras Nefesh, the same Mesiras Nefesh like a Rochel Imenu. It's an amazing story that she had such emuna and bitachon in the bracha of a tzaddik. Now, Rabbi Yosef Chaim Zonenfeld was a unique person. He was a tremendous power. So was the Chofetz Chaim. If you got a bracha like that from the Chofetz Chaim, you wouldn't think twice. A bracha from the Chofetz Chaim that, your mother's going to walk you down to the chuppah, you wouldn't have given it a second thought. That's like gold. That's the power of the bracha of a tzaddik. And that's why people go to tzaddikim to get these brachas. But it's a beautiful story, and it's a fascinating story of the greatness of the tzaddik. Listen to this. I'm going to share with you a halachic debate. It says that the Nesiim, they also brought gifts. But their gifts, their name is written without the letter Yud. The letter Yud represents Hashem's name. And the reason why the letter Yud was left out is because when they came to collect gifts from the Nesiim, you know what the Nesiim said? No problem. Let everybody give. Whatever is missing, we'll make up. Now, that's not so terrible. It didn't work here. But if you're building a shul, and the shul's going to cost you $5 million, and you go to a rich man, and the rich man says, I'll tell you what, Rabbi, collect all the money you can collect. Whatever you're missing, I'll make up. You collect $1 million, I'll write you a check for $4 million. You'd walk out of that meeting quite happy. Yes. Okay? So the Nesiim thought they were doing a good thing. What they didn't realize was, by the time everybody gave, what was left? Nothing. They covered everything. So now they missed the boat. They gave nothing. So in the end, they gave the precious stones for the ephod, the choshen, the diamonds, the rubies, all the precious stones. Which, by the way, were gifts to them. The Malachim brought them together with a man from the river Pishon, the Yonasan ben Uziel says, or from Gan Eden. The Or HaChaim says, why is the Nesiim's gift written last? A, because they gave it last. And B, because when they gave it, it wasn't theirs. They got it as a gift. They were just passing the gift on. But there's an interesting halachic debate, and I want to share with you the debate. It's brought down, the Mishnah Brewer brings it down, but it's actually in the Ber Hativ. And it's a machloket between the Radvaz and the Chacham Tzvi, two very well-known achronim. Listen to the case the Radvaz was asked, and I'll tell you, you give me your answer to his case. He says there was a guy in jail, a Jew, from Jew in jail. Being in jail, he couldn't daven with a minyan, he couldn't use talis or tefillin or anything like that. And he complains to the monarchy. He complains to whoever's in charge, saying, I'm an Orthodox Jew, and I'm in jail, it's not fair. I want some consideration for my religion. So the government said to him, okay, sir, we give you 1 day a year that you can go out and be a Jew. 24-hour period, we'll unlock the jail door, and you can go out and be a Jew. So the question to the Radvaz was, which day should it be? Logic says Yom Kippur. You wouldn't weigh in on this question?
No, you can't do no Yom Kippur.
Was it Purim?
Purim.
Rosh Hashanah?
Pesach.
Pesach? What day? So the Radvaz said, you know what day you go out? Today. Why? You say Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is in 3 months. Who knows if you'll be alive in 3 months? That means a Jew has an obligation today to put on tefillin. You want to pass up that obligation thinking in 6 months I can do a bigger mitzvah. So the Radvaz's thinking is, Ein ma'avirin al ha-mitzvos. We don't pass up mitzvos. We do what is obligated to do today. The Chacham Tzvi says no. The Chacham Tzvi says we pick and choose how best to serve Hashem. Now, this machloket is fascinating because it comes in many varieties. I'll give you an example. Kiddush Levona. You can do Kiddush Levona from day 3 of the month up to day 14 or day 15. When do you do Kiddush Levona?
Day 7.
You do day 7. Some people wait till Motzei Shabbat. Some people do day 9. Some people do in Tishrei Motzei Yom Kippur, which is day 10 or day 11. Or Motzei Tisha B'Av. I do day 3. So I'm going like the Radvaz. You're going like the Chacham Tzvi. I'll do it even by myself. You'll do it only with a minion. So the Radvaz and Chacham Tzvi disagree. Now, I do it on day 3 because Rabbi Schwab used to do it on day 3. Because he felt that doing Kiddush Levona protects you that month.
1 month. Yeah.
Gives you that month of guaranteed life. So why take a chance and wait till day 5 or day 6 or day 7? You know? Get the life insurance on day 3. Go right away. There's another interesting machloket. We talked about this a while ago. A few months ago. Let's say a person goes to the rabbi and says to the rabbi, Rabbi, I spoke to my doctor. My doctor told me that if I fast on Tzom Gedalia, I will not be strong enough to fast on Yom Kippur. If I fast Tzom Gedalia, which is only midrabanan, I will not be able to fast on Yom Kippur. So should I fast on Tzom Gedalia and not fast Yom Kippur, or should I eat on Tzom Gedalia so I should be able to fast on Yom Kippur? What would you say? You won't be strong enough. So you can only fast one of the days. You would say Yom Kippur, it's Minat Torah. The Chacham Tzvi says 100%. Eat on Tzom Gedalia and fast on Yom Kippur. What does the Radvaz say?
No.
It's Tzom Gedalia today? Yeah. Are you healthy? Yeah. Can you fast today? Yeah. So go fast. Yom Kippur, I won't be able to. Then you won't be able to. But Yom Kippur is not today. Today is Tzom Gedalia. You eat today. The Radvaz says, you go by where you are. Who knows what will be in 7 days? In 7 days, Mashiach can come. In 7 days, who knows what will happen? That means the Radvaz says, Ein ma'avirin al ha-mitzvos. We do not go against the mitzvos. You do what you have to do today because that's your obligation today. The Chacham Tzvi gives you options. So it's a very interesting machloket. It's brought down in the Ber Hetiv. It has ramifications on 100 different levels. Because we use common sense to pick and choose, but maybe we're not allowed to use common sense to pick and choose. Okay. What is one of the mitzvos on Purim? One of the more important mitzvos of Purim? Yes, to hear the Megillah at least twice. What else is there in mitzvah? Mishloach monos. Give that lady a gold star. Mishloach monos ish l're'ehu matonos le'avyonim. We give to send gifts and to give money to the poor person. Now, how do we fulfill the mitzvah mishloach monos? That has gotten really complicated. Okay? I don't know about in the Bukhari community, but in the Ashkenazi community, it's gotten really complicated. Because we don't just prepare mishloach monos. Every family has a theme, and they have to prepare a poem to match the theme. You didn't know that, did you? That means the women now already, 2 weeks before Purim, are going to Michael's and AC Moore to buy certain packaging depending on their theme. A Hatzolah member, he has a theme. We're going to be Hatzolah members. So everybody gets dressed up on Hatzolah members, and the Mishloach Monos is packaged in a little ambulance, and there's little candies in there that look like thermometers and medicine. It's a theme. Right? So it's not enough to think about what you want to do. You got to have the theme. So all the women are on the phones now, and all the community, all the talking back and forth. What did you do last year, the year before? You can't repeat. I can tell you what our theme has been for the last 15 years and the poems that went with it. But we won't go there because Shalom Bayis is more important than anything else. So, people develop themes. Rabbi Emanuel Feldman from Atlanta, Georgia, he wrote an article. Why not make the theme simplicity? Keep Mishloach Monos simple. Okay. There are other people who don't even give out Mishloach Monos. You get a card in the mail. A donation has been made on your behalf in lieu of Mishloach Monos. Okay. Are they allowed to do that? I don't know. There's an interesting Rambam, fascinating Rambam. The Rambam says, and this is unusual because nobody really knows where the Rambam gets it. And the Shulchan Aruch quotes the Rambam. The Rambam says, Kol hamarbe lishloach monos, hareze meshubach. The more mishloach monos you send, the better it is. Now we know on Pesach, when you sit around the Seder, we say, Kol hamarbe lesaper b'tzias Mitzrayim. The longer you talk about the story of Pesach, hareze meshubach. That's brought down. But whoever said, oh, you only sent out 50 mishloach monos, I sent out 75. I did a better job. Is there a contest? How many you sent out? The Rambam says yes. There's a sefer called the Ateres Yehoshua, and he says, Reb Moshe Meir Weiss brings this down, that the gematria, the numerical value of Mishloach Monos Ish L'Reyehu is 1,502. It's a big gematria, 1,502. Is the same gematria of V'nemon Ata L'Hachayot Mesim. You are believed to bring people back to life. 1502. Why does a person send out Mishloach Monos? 2 reasons. It began that I should make sure everybody has Su'udat Purim. That means, why did I send the Mishloach Monos to you and to you? That you should have Su'udat Purim. So what became the Mishloach Monos? Usually a challah, a roll, sometimes a piece of meat or fish or whatever it was. It was like a Su'udah, the cake. But the second reason for Mishloach Monos is to create ahava. Ahava means love. What did Haman say? Haman said to Achashverosh, Yesh am echad mefuzah mefura ben ha'amim. You have a nation, they don't like each other. They're spread out all over your kingdom. They don't care about each other, they don't like each other. He says, you want to defeat Am Yisrael? Very easy. When there's jealousy between Jews, there's no achdus, no unity, you can break them, you can destroy them. So Haman said to Achashverosh, we got them now. They're all over the place. They don't live in communities, they don't support each other, they don't care about each other. What did Esther say to Mordechai? Lech, go, kenos kol ha-Yehudim, gather all the Jews together. She said, Haman is thinking I can destroy the Jews because they're all over the place. Mordechai, bring them all together. How do you bring all the Jews together? Nothing is a nicer act than if you give someone a gift, right? Because if you give someone a gift, it means you thought about them, you care about them. So now the question is, how does one do the mitzvah of Mishloach Monos in the best possible way? Well, there are magazines where you can go out and buy Shlach Monos. For example, here is something which it says in big letters, backed by popular demand. You can buy a Mishloach Monos chess set. It's only $175. And if I get your piece, not only do I kill your piece, I can eat it also.
The Shetland, right?
Of course, if I eat your queen and the pawn makes it to the other side and you want your queen back, we got a problem. But other than that, and it comes with all different types of foods and everything else. I mean, now, I'm not sure if this is what it meant, mishloach monos. You can go buy an ambulance, you can buy a grogger, but the irony is, you take a grogger like this, it's only $42, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 chocolates and a cookie. The 12 chocolates and cookie probably cost $1.50. Okay? But it sells for $42. Okay. So the question comes up, how does one fulfill the mitzvah of mishloach monos in the most wonderful way? If I told you an esrog, how do you fulfill the mitzvah of an esrog? You'll say you buy the most beautiful esrog, right? The most beautiful lulav. It may be the most expensive, it may not be. It depends what's the most beautiful. But we know how to do it, right? If I tell you how to do Pesach the matzah, you'll say you can buy machine matzah or hand matzah. We know, okay, it'll cost you a fortune, but we know what for. So if I say to you, how can you do the mitzvah of mishloach monos in the best possible way? Is it to go to a store and buy a gift basket for $100? The answer is no. Why? Because in the gift basket, there's probably food in there that costs maybe $10. And of the food in the $10, $9.50 of it is food you're not going to even eat. Because they're foods you don't like. If you really want to do mishloach monos the right way, you make a list of everybody you want to give mishloach monos. And you figure out what they like. Now that means in the course of an entire year, as you meet your friends and everything else, you're making notes. That means, I'll use myself as an example. My wife hates when I use myself as an example. And I shouldn't be saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. If someone knows me well, okay, they'll know what kind of foods I like. We're not talking about steak and potatoes. We're not talking about that. What kind of... So, for example, if I would ask you, what drink, and it's not vodka, what drink do I like to drink? Do you know what I like? Coke! Finish. Simple, right? So if you go ahead and you buy me a Sprite, it's nice, but it means you don't know me. Okay? That means you did the mitzvah, but you didn't know me. Okay. Besides Coke, Coke is to drink down. What do I like to eat? What do I like to nash on? My grandchildren know, because they come to my drawer and they see what's in my drawer next to my desk. I have all the good stuff in my drawer in my desk. I am a big chocolate fan. Who doesn't like chocolate? I like ketchup. I like corn chips, potato chips, not barbecue. So someone comes to me and says, Rabbi Bryks, I brought you mishloach monos. And two people bring me two presents. One gives me a $100 gift basket where all of it's going to end up in my wife taking to Beis Yaakov to get rid of it before Pesach. Or one of it brings me a bottle of Coke and 2 chocolate bars and Dipsy Doodles. What gift am I going to eat and keep? That's what. It may only cost $3. But this gift means the person knows me. He took 2 extra minutes to think about what it is that I like. Now, it's hard to do that for 100 mishloach monos, of course. But you have neighbors, you have friends. If you really know your neighbors and your friends, we say, Reim ahuvim. What's the chos and kala? We give the bracha to the chos and kala, they should be Reim ahuvim. Reim means people who really know each other. And if you think about it, it's a mitzvah we do one time a year. Mishloach monos is a one-time-a-year mitzvah. And you have to ask yourself, and it's an important mitzvah. You said it. It was one of the most important mitzvahs. And it's what brought the whole geula, because it meant all the Jews were together and they defeated Haman because they had unity. It's a mitzvah one time a year. How much thought do we put in it? It's not how much money. Believe it or not, the nicest gifts that will be most appreciated, if a person likes fruit by the foot or a fruit roll-up, or Winkies. These are some of the things I like. When I get these mishloach monos and there's Winkies in there, stuff like that, I'll pull out the stuff I like because I'm going to keep it. I like it. Everything else, you get rid of. You repackage and you send out. So that's mishloach monos. So if I really want to give you mishloach monos, I need to take an extra minute to call up maybe your wife or a member of your family and ask, what do you like? Then I'll spend 2 minutes to buy what you like. may not be the theme, but if you get what you like, how will you feel?
Good.
Good. Because it meant the person took an extra minute to think about you. Okay. From the moment Haman was elevated till the day he was hung, how many days was it? I'll tell you a secret. 70 days. From the time it says, Achar Kain Gidel Hamelech Achashverosh es Haman, the first time we have Haman's name, Achashverosh elevated Haman, till they hung him on the tree was 70 days. The Rokeach.
Mostly was tall tree.
What?
It was a very tall tree.
It was a big tree. You'll hear about that next week. Next week you can hear about that tree. I'll tell you why you'll hear about it next week. How many psukim, from the minute Achashverosh made Haman great until he hung him, how many psukim? 70. Exactly what Keach says that. Fascinating. Ki Kain tziva la hamelech, the word Kain, Chaf Nun, is 70. On Purim we drink wine. What's the gematria of yayin? 70. So you'd be surprised. And how many years were the Jews in Golus? 70. So that number 70 is a fascinating number. 70. What's the gematria of Haman?
70.
No.
95.
Yeah, that was I just tested you.
Yes,
Says 95. Okay. And there's a reason for that also, but that's a different reason. Okay? But it's just a different reason. But I'm just trying to tell you that it's interesting that Haman was in power. It was 70 days. That was it. And we drink wine because it's 70, and there's 70 psukim. It's just a fascinating little tidbit. Okay. Now, it's already 9:25. We're going to cut it quick. We're going to cut it short over here. But let me tell you as follows. Next week, I'm going to cover two different things with you. I'm going to cover that at the end, when Mordechai, at the very end, the Megillah says that Mordechai was popular amongst most of the people. He wasn't popular amongst all the people. So we have to figure out, Mordechai saved the day. He brought all the Jews together. They destroyed Haman. Why was he only popular by some of the people? Okay? That's one thing we're going to think about next week. Next, Charvona. Who was this good guy? V'gam Charvona zocher latov. Who was Mr. Charvona? He was the guy who, when Achashverosh in the party was so angry, when Esther said, guess who's trying to kill me? That bad guy Haman. Charvona jumped in and says, and you know what he did? He put up a tree 50 amos high, a big tree, to hang Mordechai. And Achashverosh got so angry, he says, hang Haman instead. Okay? What you don't know is that the art scroll, Megillat Esther, if you look in the art scroll, under that pasuk of Charvona, the art scroll brings down a medrash that Charvona was a co-conspirator with Haman to kill the Jews. We sing, remember Charvona Zocher Latov. And the Medrash says that when Haman came to Achashverosh and says, these Jews, we don't need them, and Achashverosh says, yeah, go kill them. There were 3 people involved in the conspiracy. Achashverosh says, yeah, I don't want the Jews anyway, because if the Jews are destroyed, I get to keep the nice clothes of the Kohen Gadol. Haman says, I'm willing to do the job, because I'm a Molech, and I love killing Jews, that's my favorite. But I need a partner. Who was his partner? Charvona. Right? That shocks you now. That's scary, right? You didn't expect that. And then when Haman was already getting into trouble, Charvona jumped ship, he jumped ship. He switched sides. Of course, it's a little bit unusual because which was the other side? Achashverosh was also a partner in the crime. There were no sides, they were all on the same side. So something happened that got Achashverosh upset at Haman. That means Charvona said something that got Achashverosh angry enough to kill Haman and not Esther and not the Jews. What was it? All Charvona said was he has a tree. So what? Many people have trees. Next week, we are going to find out what it was that Charvona said that got even Achashverosh angry enough to kill Haman. But that's next week. Have a good night.
Angels
What?
cut off all the people.
That was the angels were cutting out the garden.
Yeah,
But he still wasn't angry enough. He came back in angry. And Haman was pushed onto Esther, and he made a comment, what, you're going to try to take my queen? They didn't kill him yet. They didn't order him to take him out and hang him. So Charvona opened his mouth. What was it that Charvona said that got Achashverosh angry enough that he accepted Charvona as an ally? Haman should be killed, and this whole story turned around. Stay tuned.
To be
The poor